We're recording this shir for the neshama of my uncle, Yehuda ben David, my dear congregant that was shot in the head, Linda Bar Eliyahu. May God bless all the souls of the deceased. The Ramchal says, there's two different levels of fearing God. Okay, so to review, the backbone of Judaism, of our relationship to God, is the same thing like to your parents. Of course, you have to love them, but you have to respect them. Because if you don't have respect and reverence, you go woke, you go broke. This is the main problem why we have a lot of dysfunctional families. People want to be their kid's friend. But every man, every father is the king of his castle. And he needs to be revered and listened to and respected. So 1,000 times more the king of all kings, which is God. But there's two levels of having a relationship with God. One is when we fear him because we're going to become kebab in hell. This even the Muslims and non-Jews can relate to. I don't want to burn in hell forever, so I'll listen to God. That is a very superficial and lowly type of fear of God. Rav Yisrael Salanter says in today's day and age, if you even have that, it's wonderful. But people that are educated have to have a much more deeper understanding. The reason why you listen to God is not because you want to burn like a piece of charcoal in hell. The reason why you want to listen to God is why? The same way why you want to listen to your father. You don't ever want to disappoint him, right? He's so, and especially God, he's so mighty and powerful, and you're in awe of him. Imagine like somebody's like, for lack of a better mashal, Luka Doncic or LeBron James. So if he tells you how to make a slam dunk, right? You're not going to want to disappoint him. Lahavdil alfei havdalos, right? It's not necessarily that he could harm you. It's because you're so in awe of him and respect him so much, you don't want to disappoint him. So there's two parts to this, the Ramchal says. Behove, one in the present. You're cognizant. Guys, I hate to say this. We're living in a world of autopilot. Now you have the Venmo, what's the Waymo? People, they live their life with carelessness and thoughtlessness. They're not living a meaningful life. Monkey see, monkey do. Just because I told you, like, I asked this girl, she was almost 40. I said, you're good looking, you come from a good family, and you're wealthy. So why don't you get married? You know what she tells me? She says, well, my cousin married a brain surgeon, so am I anything less? Unless a brain surgeon comes my way, I'm not going to get married. See, this is, unfortunately, our society of Persian Jewry is very superficial. That's not deep thinking. I always say a lot of things in life are possible, but not probable. You understand? So a person, when he wants to live his life, he needs to live it with thought. And you have to have a conscience. Unfortunately, the greatest Amalek is psychology, modern psychology. When Sigmund Freud the colleges wanted to introduce atheism and the Big Bang Theory and say all of us are advanced monkeys, which is the antithesis of Torah. But according to the Torah, everything you're currently doing and everything you're going to do in the future, you have to have one thing and one thing in mind. Is this the right ethical thing that God approves of or not? The same way everything that goes in our mouth needs to be kosher, everything that comes out of our mouth needs to be kosher. And one needs to revere God and say, God forbid, I don't want to disappoint the King of Kings and do something inappropriate. The second point of this is to reevaluate your past. Now, a lot of people always ask me, God, Rabbi, why do I have to suffer? First of all, a lot of the problems that arise in your life is from a previous reincarnation. Right? I'll just give you a mashal. The Zohar says, if you read, the most common questions that religious clergy, rabbis are asked is, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, there's a holy book that we have. Like, it's in 1 month from tonight, it's going to be MESILAT Esther, it's going to be Purim. There's another book similar to that called the book of Job. And in the book of Job, has anybody read that book? Nachmanides, the greatest of Jewish philosophers, right? The two greatest Jewish Sephardic rabbis were the Rambam, Maimonides, and the Ramban, Nachmanides. Nachmanides says God had Moses write a book called Job. And the whole point of this book is to answer the trillion-dollar question that all the philosophers and anybody that has any basic depth of knowledge and thinks through is, how could it be that the good suffer and the evil prosper? And why do bad things happen to good people? The Zohar says very simply, the science of Kabbalah teaches us because of reincarnation. Who was Job a reincarnation of? Eov. He was the reincarnation of Abraham's father. Does anybody know the name of Abraham's father? Terach. We read it in the Haggadah. Terach was in the business of selling idols to the whole world. And he was so frustrated with Abraham, because Abraham went and broke all his idols, and then he said, the big one killed the small one, that Terach went and told the local king, Nimrod, and he threw Abraham in the fire. So since Terach in his previous life had caused the whole world to become corrupt because he supplied them with idols, when he became reincarnated, he had to have a lot of suffering because, like Einstein says, for energy you put in the world, it doesn't go away. It transforms into another one. So spiritually also, everything you do is calculated. And you're going to have to pay the piper for it. And the only way to go to God in peace and become one with Him in the next world is that you have to do tikkun. You know what tikkun means? You have to become pure. So, a person that fears God, and I don't want to use the word fear anymore, revere, right? Because we're high class people. We're not like little babies that don't touch the, right? It's not like God is like fire and we run away from Him. We're going to listen to Him because we're going to burn in hell. No, we know who God is the King of all kings, and the reason why we listen to Him is because we want to live a meaningful life. We don't want to disappoint Him. And it says, a person that fears God, he has to audit his life from when he was a teenager and see if maybe perhaps he had done some mistakes. But guess what? Judaism is about the future. By the way, the biggest misconception Jews have, something called guilt. There's no word for guilt in the Jewish dictionary. Guilt is a Catholic idea. You can regret your mistakes, but you do teshuvah. Teshuvah is 4 simple steps. Chatati aviti pashati. God, I regret what I did. I promise not to do it again. And you stop doing it. You're forgiven. Move ahead, right? And they say about Moshe Aaron, so you know that the word Messiah actually comes from somebody that's anointed with the holy oil. This oil that all the Jewish kings and the high priests, like Aaron, Kohen Gadol, it was the original bottle that Moshe had blessed, and he had smeared it on the holy tabernacle, which we later put on the Mishkan in Jerusalem. So the word Mashiach means Mashuach, anointed by oil, which means this holy oil from the time of Moses was anointed. So who designated the first Kohen? Moshe. He put oil between the eyes of Aharon, the Kohen Gadol. So he says Moshe and Aaron were a little bit worried that maybe they didn't follow the protocol perfectly right. And Moshe was worried. He said, maybe I used it, maybe the oil was very magical and smelled good, maybe I did it for ulterior motives. So a heavenly voice came down and said no. When Moshe, first time, right, so this magical bottle of oil, Messiah is also going to be anointed with it. Every Jewish king, like David, was anointed with this oil. Samuel poured it on King David, and that's where the word Mashiach comes from. Mashiach means anointed one. So when Moses has first opened the bottle, so to speak, lahavdil to say, this genie bottle of magical oil that all the holy things in the world is going to be dropped on, he put it on Aaron, and the oil came down Aaron, and it went on his beard. It started dripping from his beard. So a heavenly voice told Moshe, don't worry, don't be paranoid. You did everything perfectly according to protocol. And the same way that Israel is like a beautiful microcosm of the world. Israel is one of the only places in the world you could surf and ski on the same day. There's a mountain, to this day there's a lot of soldiers there because of the Syrian regime. It's called Mount Hermon. It's a beautiful place, one of the best places in the Middle East to ski. So the same way God told Moses as Aaron, he said the same way that Mount Hermon is pristine and white, you are free of sin, right? You are like Snow White. And you did everything perfectly. And it's just saying, basically what it's saying is, it's not good to be paranoid, but it's always good to second guess yourself. Maybe today I didn't live the life with the true fear and reverence of God, right? Maybe I slipped up. And that's not a problem. As long as you regret and promise to be a better person, you're automatically forgiven. It says this is the constant hallmark of all the forefathers and founders of Judaism. It says the tzaddikim like Abraham, they're always worried and they say maybe perhaps I didn't do the mitzvah in the most pristine and perfect way. So they reevaluated it. I got an 88 percentile on the CPA exam. We human beings have this unlimited capacity to become perfect. That's what it means we're in the image of God. Just like God is perfect, if we work on ourselves, remember the Dvar Torah said if we put blood, sweat, and tears into our moral character, we can become basically godly, which means perfectly, there's nothing wrong with us. We're not angry, we're not lazy, we're just full of light and kindness and love. So that's the hallmark of tzaddikim. They always audit themselves and say, maybe perhaps my thoughts and actions weren't as pure. They learn from their mistakes and they go higher and higher. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.